And good morning, everyone. This is the House Judiciary Committee, and we're about to start our proceedings. But first, I'd ask you to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, just for both for the members of the committee and also for the public, I just want to kind of explain how we're going to proceed today. This has been listed as a work session, and but the notice for also indicated that we might take votes on some matters. So I want to kind of explain that what I've discussed with the ranking member and what we've agreed upon is we're going to have a discussion of all of the bills. And if there are, I very likely will be asking for straw votes on some things. If it appears that we have unanimity or almost unanimity on some matters, then we may take votes on those matters. But if there is disagreement on matters, then we will not be voting on them today. For a number of reasons. First, we don't have to. We have more time, and it may be that we need to give more thought to some of the matters. But on top of that, we don't have everyone here. We have on my side of the aisle, we have some members missing, and on the other side of the aisle, we have some members missing. So for those reasons, and we haven't arranged to get substitutes because of the agreement I referred to, that we're not going to vote on things unless we have consensus. So with that, I'm going to first turn to CACR 6, which is the proposed constitutional amendment regarding the right to compute. What I want to say about that is we're not going to take any final action on that today because the prime sponsor of the bill, Representative Ammon, was not able to be here today and wanted to have an opportunity to weigh in at least a bit more about the matter. And so I said, fine, we will not take we will not take any action on the matter today. But in terms of discussing it, my sense from speaking to my caucus is that we have some concerns about two things. First, whether this is something that should be the subject of a constitutional amendment. And I think just as importantly, we're really not quite sure what the right to compute means and what the implications of that would be. So, I'm just speaking personally, and I think I ask any other reps to chime in with their views, but I think we have some concerns about this. Maybe there are answers to the concerns. Maybe there will be some amendments that could be made, whatever. And I certainly want to hear from Representative Ammon with his thoughts on the matter before we vote on it. But my sense is that unless people have a significant change of heart, that this is not likely to be something that's going to move forward. Anyone else? Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And keeping in mind that we will have a more substantive hearing with the sponsor, I won't take up much time on this today. It's a sense largely of our caucus that this particular CACR has some deficits in it, and especially in terms of whether certain people, frankly, should be barred from the use of computers who've used it to commit crimes and the like, as well as how this would affect children and their use of computers. So Obviously, we'll accede to the reasonable suggestion of the chair that this just be postponed at this point or set for a hearing or executive session with Representative Ammon here.
All right. All right, anyone else, anything else anyone wants to say on that? All right, then I'm going to recess the hearing on CACR 6, and we'll take it up again when we, at our next meeting, which we will discuss before we leave. Next, I want to turn to HB 74. This is a bill defining the term citizen for the purpose of the right to know law and including preliminary drafts circulated to a quorum or a majority of a public body as disclosable documents. This, as you may recall, this was sort of a backup bill to another bill that this committee passed and that it was passed by the House and went over to the Senate, which killed it, much to my chagrin, and maybe some of you have the same feeling. I guess my sense is that in light of what the Senate did and their disinclination to do much of anything with the right to know law, maybe this is kind of a fool's errand to go forward with trying to do anything. So my inclination would be to ITL it, but what do other people think? I guess that's what I'd like to know. Representative Birch.
Without meaning to cut off anybody else's conversation, I would indicate that we would tend to agree from our side of the aisle for an ITL on this. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. So, you know what, can I just ask, before I take a vote on this, can I just ask for a straw vote? I mean, how many people would be in favor of ITLing this? If you are, raise your hand. So it looks like we're unanimous. All right, so in light of that, I guess I would ask the clerk to, I'm sorry, yes, I would make a motion to ITL House Bill 74. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Mann. All right. Any further discussion on this? All right, then I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please. The motion is to ITL HB 74. Yeah, sure, take your time.
Vice Chairman Mannion,
Yes.
Representative Tripp,
Yes.
Representative Andrews. Yes. Representative Kutab,
Yes.
Representative Perez. Yes. Clerk votes yes. Representative Smith. Representative Horgan,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Page. Yes. Representative Manos,
Yes.
Representative Tur,
Yes.
Representative Rombo,
Yes.
Representative Bergeron,
Yes.
and Chairman Lynn.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
All right. Can this go on? Any objection to this going on the consent calendar? I'm seeing none. It'll be on consent, and since I made the motion, I'll write the report.
Mhm.
All right. All right, so I'm going to close the hearing on HB 74 and turn to and open the hearing on HB 232. This is relative to the rights of conscience for medical professionals. And again, I want to just have a general discussion on this matter. And I'm going to recognize Representative Peternal. I understand that there is an amendment, which is, I think, is not necessarily a new amendment. Did we discuss this, when we took up the bill before?
No, it is a new amendment
new.
that narrows the scope just to strictly abortion, and I don't have the printed copy. I'm waiting on the printed copy to come around for the committee to
Oh,
see.
Okay.
But yes, so it does narrow the scope and limit some of the penalties.
Okay, and am I correct in understanding? I mean, I remember one of the things that I think I and some others had some concern about the original bill was, and there was an amendment made by Representative Pearson, which he was agreeable to, which basically said that the bill wouldn't apply to an employer if the employer was, for example, a hospital or a Planned Parenthood or something that had a significant portion of their work was performing abortions.
Yes, that line is in the amendment.
And that's still in there. Okay, all right. I guess my sense, and I'm asked, please, anybody who has a different view on this, please speak up. But my sense is this is something that we are likely to have a pretty significant disagreement about, and so would not be voting on today. I mean, my sense is I would be inclined to support this bill with the amendment that Representative Petronell indicates, and I think that many people on my side of the aisle, but I don't think all, but many people on my side of the aisle, I think would support this. But if people have a different view, please speak up. Representative Birch?
Only briefly to say, because there's other hands up, that obviously we can't handle it today because we don't have the amendment, haven't had time to look at it. So I assume what the chair has in mind is scheduling another meeting on this.
Yes, for sure. Representative Horgan, did you want to speak?
Well, yes, I'd be inclined to ITL it, but yeah, so, and I'm not to reserve judgment until I see the amendment, but I'm not sure if that makes the bill any better. And as a practical matter, a healthcare professional who objects to being involved with abortions has a wide variety of healthcare providers which do not provide abortions because it's a service that's only provided at a very limited subset of the many healthcare facilities in the States. So it's like not sure like who's actually being helped by it. So thank you.
Representative Manis, did you have something?
I was just going to echo what Representative Birch said, that without the amendment, I can't make any judgment on this, and so would support it being recessed.
Okay, all right. Anyone else want to speak on this? All right, well then, in light of the fact that we don't have the amendment number 1 and number 2, that it appears that there will be disagreement on this, I'm going to recess the hearing on HB 232. Next, I'd like to turn to
Could I ask that
Sure.
when the clerk does get the amendment, that she send it to the committee so that committee members have an opportunity to review it before the next session?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's being printed. It'll be passed out before we leave today.
All right, then I'm now going to turn to HB 253 relative to interest-bearing pooled trust accounts maintained by lawyers. And I guess what I'd like to say about this bill is I think there are 2 problems with the bill as I this is expressing only my own views on this, but one, to the extent that there is a problem with the whole idea of the IOLTA, interest on lawyers' trust accounts, my sense is that problem, if there is one, and I tend I think that there may be, but if there is a problem with interest on lawyers' trust accounts, the problem is that with the government, whether it's the judicial branch or the legislature or whatever, taking money that should belong to a private person, a client, and diverting the money to other purposes. And from that perspective, the bill as it's drafted doesn't solve that problem at all, because it simply says, instead of the court directing the money to, for example, legal assistance and other 603 legal and other civil legal programs, the legislature would instead divert the money to the public defender's office. To me, that doesn't solve that doesn't solve the problem, if, at all. And so it would seem to me, if there were basis for a change, it would be just changing the whole idea of IOLTA, to stop, to have the money go back to the clients. So I do have that issue, but I recognize that there are people who have a very different issue on this. I think that the Bar Association would have a real problem with either the bill as it's drafted, or, changing it to sort of do away with IOLTA. The Supreme Court and the judicial branch may have a problem with that. At any rate, I mean, to just being very candid about this, if we were to move forward with this, I think we would be in for a fight that I think there are other more important things that the legislature, should be focusing on. And the other thing is, just in terms of timing, this would likely have significant budget implications. And, we're beyond the budget year now. So if something were going to be done, it seems to me that it would be much more appropriate for it to be done in 2027. And the other thing I guess I would say candidly is, I've done a little bit of research, not extensive, but a little bit of research around the country. And there are a couple of states, I think Montana, and there may be one other state, that have taken some action, or at least have some bills to deal with the IOLTA issue. But this is not a burning issue around the country of let's eliminate IOLTA, which is another thing that gives me great pause. So for all of those reasons, my inclination would be to recommend that this bill for interim study, and again, candidly, that the interim study would be, we would not be doing anything further with this bill, at least in 2026. And if there's some further thing to do, it wouldn't be until after the next election, if at all. So that's my view. Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The view, as I've heard it expressed in our caucus, is against this legislation for a number of reasons. Perfectly happy to go into them in a discussion, but perhaps a straw vote first to see whether we need to expend time on a more extended discussion might be worthwhile.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry, but before I do that, Representative Oregon, did you, and then Representative Manos. Yeah.
Yes, one of the practices that this bill is trying to prevent is the public defender's office contributing to political campaigns, and I'm fairly certain that's not legally possible, and I certainly have found zero evidence of anybody receiving campaign contributions from the public defender's office. And then the other half of it is about nonprofit organizations, and I think there's maybe some valid reasons why the public defender's office might want to provide funding to public, nonprofit organizations, like even the Bar Association. So I think there's no evidence that any of this activity was in fact going on, or that so the bill is unnecessary. And then there were some allegations in hearing about certain nonprofits' activities, which which of course we're not connected with the public defender's office anyway, but
All right, Representative Manos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My memory is that there is a rule, a Supreme Court rule about the process for determining how IOLTA funds are allocated. And so given that there's a way to address this internally, and my memory is there was a committee and there was the ability for the public to have input into that process. That in my mind is another reason to not support this bill. But I was going to say that if the reality is that interim study would lead to the death of the bill, I would just assume ITL it and just be done with it. So I would prefer that we just ITL it rather than interim study it.
All right. Anyone else have any comments? All right, so let me just ask, what would be the, I think Representative Birch has a valid point. So on the issue of whether of interim study, can I just ask those who would support interim study to please raise your hand? It sounds like I'm the only one. Look, no. Oh, sure. So if you would support a motion to interim study this bill, would you raise your hand? So we've got 3, and let me ask you a straw vote on ITL. ITL the bill, who would support ITL? All right, then that's fine. That's fine. All right. So you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would move the ITL, HB, 25.
Or is there a second? Birch, and second by Manos. All right. Anyone else wish to be heard on 253? All right, then I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Vice Chairman Mannion,
yes.
Representative Tripp,
Yes.
Representative Andrews, Representative Kutab, Representative Perez. Clerk votes yes. Representative Smith. Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Page, Representative Manos,
Yes.
Representative Tur,
Yes.
Representative Rombo,
Yes.
Representative Bergeron,
Yes.
Chairman Lind.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
Any problem with this going on consent? All right, so it'll go on consent. Oh, and Representative Birch, you will do the honors.
I'll do the honors.
All right, next I'm going to turn to, this is going to go on consent. Anybody have any problem with that? All right, so this will be on consent. All right, next is HB 293, preventing minors from accessing obscenity on certain electronic devices with internet access. My understanding on this is that we have some disagreement on my side of the aisle, and I'm not quite sure of whether there's some disagreement on the other side of the aisle. I guess what I would say is this: right now I have 2 problems with the bill the way it's drafted right now. I don't have any problem with the basic concept of limiting minors' ability to get access to pornographic material on the internet. But I have two issues with the bill as it's currently drafted. And I really am conflicted on some of these things, and I really would value other people's input on this. The first is, I don't like the idea of a private right of action for civil damages, because I really think I think it would open up the opportunity for a lot of what I would regard as really bogus, or at least very stretching kind of lawsuits, in the sense that, sure, as a basic proposition, I don't think minors should be accessing pornography. That's why, and so I would have no problem saying you can't do it. And if a company violates the law, then they should be criminally prosecuted for violating the law, or maybe there should be some kind of civil penalty in a defined amount. That's one thing. But to say that because little Johnny or little Susie did access the internet, and now they've suffered some damage and turned into, serial killers, or turned into something else, and should be entitled to be compensated. Connecting those two dots seems to me to be very, very, very speculative at the best, and will lead to, you can, I think it's fair to say, candidly, and with deference to people who are legitimate experts, but you can find an expert to give you an opinion about pretty much anything you want. And so we'll have these battles of experts, some saying, oh yes, if Johnny hadn't looked at that pornography, he or she wouldn't have turned into a serial killer. I'm just using that as an example. And some other experts saying, oh no, I think it would do a disservice to our court system to allow to further that kind of litigation. So that's my major problem with it. The other problem, and this is something I feel less strongly about, but I think there is a good point. This bill, the way it's drafted, is directed at the manufacturers of computer hardware, like Apple, or the manufacturers of computer hardware. And there's been a suggestion that that's the wrong place to place the restrictions. It should actually be on either the people who create the content, that is the pornographic websites, or at least the internet service providers that furnish the platform for the content. Now, some people have said to me that, well, yeah, I mean, maybe in some world that's okay, but it's just it would be a lot easier to just require the manufacturers to do it. I have some reservations about that, but anyway, that's kind of my sense of this. So if the bill stays the way it is, I would be inclined to not to support it, but maybe there are changes that can be made. Representative Turk.
Yeah, I think those are valid points, and I would add that during the two things. I guess one, during the testimony on this bill, the bill sort of hinges on the activation of some sort of a filter, but it was unclear during that whole discussion if that filter exists. We were told it's not the safe search filter. We were told it's not artificial intelligence. And so I don't even know from a practical standpoint whether we're even clear what this would require. And then there was a little discussion within our, or was highlighted to us, that there's this recent Paxton decision from the Supreme Court. And I looked at that, and similar to what you were just saying, the Paxton decision basically doesn't limit the use of the phone or the entire access to the internet. It basically places the onus on certain websites that can be found to substantially be producing this type of material. to basically verify age access, which seems like a much narrower, approach. And that, but that, of course, that would have to be a separate concept that we would debate in a different bill, but it's not feasible to shift this bill to make that kind of change. So I would agree with ITL.
So you know what, yes, Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The concept of the age demarcation is something that I have a great deal of difficulty with, and I think I'm not the only one. I think there's a long history here in the Supreme Court, if we still have a Supreme Court, and other courts have made clear that when one specifies a particular age, it makes me think of the Robert Frost poem, when you're building a wall, who are you walling in and who are you walling out? And that concept, to begin with, I think, is counter to much of what I think all of us have tended to believe in terms of individual rights. So even beginning at that point, I have real questions about whether this is a way, rather than parental supervision and public education and all kinds of other efforts directed at helping young minds develop, that it is much better than this approach.
So there was, I'm sorry, Representative Birch.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. One of the legal or technical areas that I'm concerned about is the idea that we can try to nationalize the definition and enforcement of obscenity, because as we have wrestled through the legal system for probably 75 years on defining obscenity, we seem to have come around to the sense that it's based on community standards. And that's even in the definition here. So I don't have a clue how a manufacturer nationally is going to address what my community or your community or even the larger community of New Hampshire, but I suspect it's smaller than that, community, how they define what obscenity is. And that's a power that's left to our communities. And the idea of taking that power away from our communities and giving it to some national organization, to me, is an issue. Leaving aside the question that teenagers and children can simply access the same materials through different access points, whether it's laptops or cell phones, adults-owned accounts, VPN, whatever it may be. I take what you said, Mr. Chair, that if this were going to have any possibility of success on your side of the aisle, it would take a major redoing. I'm wondering whether if somebody wants to do that, they can bring back a bill, in the next session. But it seems to me that perhaps we could take a straw vote as to whether what we have, people are ready to vote on or not.
Well, you know what, I guess one of the things that we could do is to appoint a subcommittee to work on this. And my inclination is if people are willing to work on a subcommittee, that would be another alternative. And then they could come back with some proposals which we could take up at our next meeting. So is there some interest? Would people have an interest in working on a subcommittee? Representative Tedder?
Yes, thank you. I would very much like to work on a subcommittee. I've been in communication
with the prime sponsor over the summer and have been paying attention to a lot of the issues surrounding the Paxton case. And I think it would be in the best interest of protecting our children if we actually do work on this in a subcommittee and come and just make a determination from there.
So can I just ask, who would, yes, Representative Bergeron, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that our school district in Manchester has made policies relative to this, so the IT department does work with Google or whatnot on some of our devices.
Okay, all right. So if we were to have, Representative Tur,
Can I just ask a little bit about the concept of a subcommittee? Because we just sort of circled around and said that for a whole lot of reasons, what we have in front of us is very far afield from what I think most people think might be a workable approach. I was just curious if anyone has any sense of where this bill might go in a subcommittee.
Representative Perez.
We need to do something. And I think there's a lot of parents. It took a long time to get certain things out of the schools. I worked for 4 years trying to get stuff off their laptops that they said, oh, they can't go here and they can't go there. And then it came out that they could. This is about protecting the kids. And I think, it's easy to say that parents can block and parents can put these things on. It's not that easy for the parents. You have parents who have one child that's homeschooled. You have parents who have 4 kids of all ages that are out. This is for the parents and the kids. I think it's well worth a subcommittee.
Right. So can I just ask who would be willing to serve on a subcommittee? All right. All right. So, all right. So let's see. Why don't we have a subcommittee with Representative Petronil as chair and Representative Tur, Representative Bergeron, Representative Kutab, are you willing to? Representative Perez? No. Okay. So do I think McFarland? All right. So wait a minute. So it's going to be Petronil.
Where is
I don't know. McFarland. Petronil, McFarland, and Bergeron and Tur, right? We try to have an odd number. Yeah, right, we need one more, right? All right, good, and Kutab. All right. So the subcommittee will be chaired by Representative Petronil. It will include Representative McFarland, Representative Tur, Representative Bergeron, and Representative Kutab. And as I say, we'll have a date when we're going to have our next meeting, and I'll make sure it's long enough so that you have time to do some work. Just remember, if you're going to have meetings, you need to notice them. So, all right. Is there anything anybody else wants to say on HB 293? Seeing nothing, I'm going to then recess the hearing on 293. Next, my favorite bill, HB 313, relative to non-public sessions of public meetings where discussion in public would likely affect a person's reputation. In my caucus, we have had some discussion about having a subcommittee on this. I know that Representative Alexander is very interested in that. Representative Kutab, I think, has some interest in that also. And I'm not at all opposed to having a subcommittee. I am skeptical that the subcommittee will come up with something that at least would satisfy me, but maybe, maybe I'm just being overly pessimistic. But I'm certainly willing to have a subcommittee. And that would be my inclination as a way to go, unless people have a different view. Representative Birch?
Yes, I'm familiar with the position of one or more members of your caucus, so I think there will be a subcommittee. And having drawn the short straw, I'm willing to be on that subcommittee.
Okay, all right. Representative Smith?
Perhaps I'm out of practice on this, but I have the feeling that some of what's going on this morning would go under the headline of kick the can. Thank you.
I hear I hear what you're saying. As I said, I remain somewhat skeptical that there is a solution that will be worthwhile, but um, I am going to appoint a subcommittee. And since I believe, Representative Kutab, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Representative Alexander is the one who was most desirous of having a subcommittee. So maybe we will make him the chair of the subcommittee.
Yeah, he said he was fine to chair it, or that I'm happy to chair it as well, whomever you want to appoint.
Well, I'm gonna, on the theory that, if you're not here, you get volunteered, I'm gonna appoint Alexander as the chair. And if he strongly disagrees with doing that, I will then appoint you. But, all right, so it's gonna be Alexander, Kutab, Birch. Anyone else want to volunteer? All right, not everyone raise your hand at once. All right. All right, so we'll have a subcommittee. And unless anybody else has anything they want to say on this, I will recess the hearing on HB 313. The next, I will turn to HB 580, relative to retaliatory defamation in domestic violence and sexual violence cases. There has been some talk of a subcommittee on this also, although my understanding is that it is possible we may have a consensus on this to just interim study it. So let me just ask, maybe the way to start off is just to do a straw vote. If there was a motion to interim study 580, if you would support that, raise your right hand or raise your hand. All right. And how about opposed? Opposing that? People that would be opposed to interim study? Anyone opposed to interim study? All right. So seeing, I don't think we were unanimous on interim study, but I don't see anybody opposing it. So maybe people just didn't raise their hand. In light of that, do I have a motion to interim study?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move interim study.
All right. All right. All right. So it's been moved by Representative Manos, seconded by Representative Birch to interim study the bill. Any further discussion? All right, then I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Vice Chairman Mannion,
Yes.
Representative Tripp,
Yes.
Representative Andrus,
Yes.
Representative Kutab,
Yes.
Representative Perez,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Smith, Representative Horgan,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Page, Representative Manos,
Yes.
Representative Tourer,
Yes.
Representative Rombo,
Yes.
Representative Bergeron,
Yes.
Chairman Lynn.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
All right. Any objection to this going on consent? Seeing none, it will be on consent. Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Interim study. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. And Representative Manos, can I ask you to write the report? Um, what- No, I think there has to be at least, I think something saying that it's, it's gonna go to interim study. I think there has to be at least some, it doesn't have to be extensive at all, but something. All right, next, I want to turn to, HCR 11. This is, proposed House concurrent resolution that declaring the directives of the judicial branch in the Claremont cases that the legislative and executive branches define an adequate education, adopt standards of accountability, and guarantee adequate funding of the public education are not binding on the legislative and executive branches. So, just being very candid about this, I think, although I have great sympathy for what the concurrent resolution says, I do not think that it is something that would be appropriate for us to do right now. But more importantly, I'm happy to hear what anybody has to say about this. I definitely will have a discussion, but I'm not going to call a vote on this because and I say we, on my side of the aisle, we need to have some further discussion about this, which we will be having in short order with leadership. But I have some problems with the advisability of going forward with a concurrent resolution of this kind. And the other thing I'm told by Clerk Smith is that apparently the Senate has either a rule or a practice that they will not take up concurrent resolutions proposed by the House. So, it strikes me that maybe Representative Smith may know more about this than I do, but it strikes me that if this is going nowhere anyway, why have a big fight about it? Yes, Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In answer to the question directed specifically at me, it is my understanding, although I would never presume to speak for the Senate, that has in fact been the Senate practice for a number of years. And whether that's appropriate or not is not for me to say. However, I'm a little concerned. Here we've gone through all of these bills in I think in a very reasonable way. It is true that as I look around, I see of the 15 people who are here, 8 are Democrats, 7 are Republicans. That is not my usual way of counting, as you know, because I am never comfortable with counting by party. But I'm interested that now we are asked not to take action on something that we have known for months we would have on this calendar. And the reason is because the Republican leadership might have something else to say. I was not aware that the Republican leadership had been prevented from saying anything from, say, June until now. There is another way of handling this HCR. If we want to, we could just have an amendment to try to get rid of the U.S. Constitution, which would, in fact, accomplish pretty much what this HCR is going to accomplish, and would be as useless as this HCR. I understand that people don't like decisions that are being made. I don't like a lot of decisions that are being made day after day after day. But I happen to believe in the basic framework of our government, silly me, and certainly think that there's no reason not to vote right now on, to ITL HCR 11. And, having said my piece, I then, because I always do, will support the majority, decision. But there's no reason to put this off. I mean, really, are we to say that the basic concept of the three branches of government should be thrown out the window because there are some who do not like some of the decisions? Because, brother, if that's where we're going, uh, I can see a lot of chapters following this. So I do hope that we would just get rid of this and focus on the bills where we can make a difference to meet the needs of the citizens of the state. And this HCR is not one of them. Thank you.
Representative Horton.
Yes, well, first of all, even if you like this HCR and you think it has some effect, it's somewhat flawed because it doesn't exactly specify what exactly the so-called Claremont decisions are. But as I understand those, in the Conval decision, it's basically the state, the Supreme Court just, well, the courts have basically said that there's a conflict between the state constitution and the many budgets we pass since Claremont, and we're not providing a level of state aid to education which meets the requirements in the Constitution. And one theoretical solution that would be to increase the amount of state aid to education. But be that as it may, we passed a budget a few months ago which continued to ignore the concerns raised in the most recent case. We passed, I think, something like 18 budgets which ignore those decisions over the years since the first of those decisions. So I think this resolution, even if the Senate takes it up, is not going to change that problem at all. The better solution is to find a way to increase state aid. And actually, a member of the majority leadership probably unintentionally opened the door to that a little bit in an op-ed, which I saw in the Union Leader, where he was not talking about education, but he was talking about the Department of Health and Human Services urging them to provide more aid to communities which have healthcare tax exempt facilities in their towns. So that at least he's at least expressed an opinion in that area of the relationship between state and local governments, which could easily be extended to justify increasing the amount of state aid to education. So I would just say this HCR, even if I liked it, which I don't, but this is not the right way to solve that issue. The right way to solve that issue is to eventually pass a budget that obeys the state constitution. So,
Representative Kutab and then Representative Hirsch.
Thank you, Chairman Lynn. Would there be potential to maybe discuss potentially interim studying it? If there might potentially be consensus on that? It seems like there's not overwhelming support for this legislation. So rather than delaying it, could that potentially be an option?
Well, I think, I mean, I think to be candid about it, I think I really, where leadership of the majority party wants to have further discussion before we vote, I think it would not be appropriate to ignore that. Whether an interim study would be appropriate at the end of that discussion, I may, that may very well make the most sense. I should note also here, just because I think it is important, there was some language, I believe it was in HB2, that said something like this, and that was passed and became, and was, as I said, I think it was in HB2, maybe it was another bill, but anyway, it's not exactly the same as this. This language is somewhat stronger than what was in HB2, I think. But there was, the legislature did, in some fashion, express its view you know, the sort of separation of powers issue and the whole school funding. So I think that's, you know, that's another thing we ought to keep in mind. Representative Petterno.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lynn. Seeing as how we're missing 3 members from the committee, I would really suggest that we adhere to your recommendation of not taking this up today.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Mr. Chair,
whoop.
on
Representative Smith and then Representative Birch.
on all the other votes, we've had 3 members missing. And we've gone ahead. And I don't like the idea of confrontation. I would be happy to make a motion of ITL. I believe if I made a motion of ITL right now, it would pass. But I understand that there are members missing. I would suggest that before you call for any motion of interim study or anything else, that you invite Mr. McFarland to come back and, if he's willing to join us for a few minutes, so that at least if we have a vote, your side is represented to the extent possible.
Representative Birch, I'm sorry. Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll see if I can talk for 5 minutes. Yeah, I probably could.
Let me,
Um,
wait, just so that it's clear, we're not having a vote on this today. I'm going to recess the hearing, but I just wanted everybody to have an opportunity to, if you have something to say. So you can talk as long as you want, but there's no need for a filibuster because we're not having a vote anyway.
Well,
That would be the chair's independent decision not to vote.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. You're entitled to do that. So
I'm
we
not-
could just end the discussion with that, but making clear that that's your, not the vote of the committee,
Right.
but the vote of the chair.
Right, absolutely.
I do have a procedural question about that. Is that ruling from the chair subject to being overruled by the committee?
I don't believe it is. I don't believe it is.
So there's so a motion to overrule the chair would not be.
On this issue, on when we have a vote, I don't think it is. No, I think it's my call.
Well, then we could perhaps send Representative McDonald back to where he came from.
I'm sorry. Representative
But
Burr, I think.
no, I do want to make a few remarks, though.
Sure.
I'm not aware in my many years on this committee that we've ever simply deferred a vote based on a member or 2 members or whatever being absent. I think that would set a really bad precedent. And perhaps the problem in that is what happens when the next time the situation comes up and the next time, are we setting a precedent here of delaying votes so that certain parties can come? On the larger issue, I am hopeful that we are mindful of that the idea of a House Judiciary Committee in New Hampshire would vote for essentially nullification, as the term was used back pre-Civil War, and saying that decisions, lawful decisions of a Supreme Court can be scuttled by the legislature. I am reminded that literally the beginning of the Civil War was the passage of the South Carolina nullification and act of secession. And that led to Fort Sumter and then led to the Civil War, which I would also note that New Hampshire was one of the leading states, and the statesmen from New Hampshire were some of the leading anti-nullification voices in the country at the time. So I respect that the chair has made his ruling about what we're going to take up today or not. I just want to respectfully say that I think, given the tenor of how people feel on the bill who are present, that it would be the better practice to do it today. But I respect the decision of the chair.
Yes, Representative Mannion, and I think then Representative Tur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today's a work session, and at the beginning of this work session, the chair made it very clear that unless it was unanimous or close to unanimous, we would not be voting on a bill. We have 7 bills that we've discussed so far. We've only voted on 2 of them. Several of them were recessed. Nobody had a concern at that point. So I don't see the concern at this point. It's the chair's decision. If he wants to recess it, it'll be recessed. Thank you.
Representative Tur.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure we focus back on the idea, wherever this bill may go, that there is a real underlying problem that the content of this bill attempts, or HCR, sorry, attempts to address, and it's been present for decades, and it's hurting many communities and many individual students in the state. And the idea that by passing a concurring resolution saying it doesn't exist, that we are somehow going to solve that problem, to me seems like a completely non-serious approach toward, meaningfully addressing this underlying issue. So I just wanted to put that out there before this goes into whatever future it may have. Thanks.
All right, anyone else have anything to say? All right, so then we're going to recess. I'm going to recess the hearing on this, and we will take this up when we have our next meeting. So next I'm going to turn to SB 189 relative to fetal death records. There was, as I recall, during our regular sessions in the spring, there was, as I recall, there was no real objection to the bill as it was worded, but there was some desire to add some provisions to it dealing with reporting on abortion statistics, that kind of thing. My understanding, and I'm going to call on Representative Peternell in a moment, but my understanding is that issue has been taken care of through another bill that was actually passed by the legislature in the current session, and that there is not the need, to do something on that score has kind of been taken care of, so that we can now deal just with the basic bill. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lind. I would agree with your assessment and would make a motion to pass, make a motion of ought to pass on Senate Bill 189.
All right, is there a second? All right, hang on. All right. It's been moved by Representative Peternell, seconded by Representative Perez, of ought to pass. Is there any further discussion on this bill? Anyone else want anything to say? All right, then I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice Chairman Mannion,
Yes.
Representative Tripp,
Yes.
Representative Andrus,
Yes.
Representative Kutab,
Yes.
Representative Perez,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative McFarland, Representative Smith, Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Page, Representative Manos,
Yes.
Representative Tur,
Yes.
Representative Rombo,
Yes.
Representative Bergeron,
Yes, thank you.
Chairman Lind.
Yes.
15 yeas, 1 nay.
Anybody object to going on consent? All right, so it'll be on consent, and Representative Pedernal, can you write the report? All right. The last bill to take up is SB 268, permitting classifications of individuals based on biological sex under certain limited circumstances. And Representative Pedernal, during our caucus, had come up with a new manner of handling bills, but I'm not going to discuss what that was. But at any rate, I would say that I thought it was very, very clever, and I will tell you all about it at some point, but not now. At any rate, I would say that for a number of reasons, it's not appropriate for us to take this matter up at this time. And so I'm going to recess the hearing on this, but before I do that, if people want to have anything to say, people have anything they want to say about it, that's, I'm all for free speech. So say what you have to say if you want to, but we are going to recess. We're not going to vote on this now.
Would you share with us the reason for?
I think that there are a number of things going on this subject matter, as you may know, I'm sure you know, the governor vetoed a bill that was very similar to this, but indicated that she was open to having further discussions on the matter. And so I guess that's really about all I will say about it.
And so you are not taking a vote now, but also not creating a subcommittee. You're just
That's correct. Yes, that's what I would propose.
letting this sit quietly.
Letting it sit quietly until we have our next meeting.
Thank you.
Representative Turner, did you?
Yeah, really briefly. Again, don't know what's going to happen between now and the next time we are all together on this bill. This has been debated many times and across multiple sessions of the House. Many both structural and intent-based issues with the legislation have been brought to light. I want to lift up the decisions by 2 governors in a row to veto this bill, and hope that the reasons behind those and the many items that have come up when hearing this bill about why resolving those structural and intent problems basically present even more structural and intent problems. I hope that that's factored into whatever process is going to take place over the next coming days.
Anyone else have anything to say on this? All right, then I'm going to recess the hearing on SB 268. I think that just a couple of things. So in terms of the reports, I mean, our deadline is until November 21st, but I think, we're going to have some other reports to write before then. And so I think, could I ask that the reports that people have to write, I don't think any of them are going to be particularly long. Can I ask that they be submitted to me by Friday, by the end of the day on Friday? Is that reasonable? All right. Yeah, it does, because I'm going to be in Israel on Monday. So, so I would appreciate it if we could get it in by Friday. All right, and so now the next thing that we need to talk about is when are we going to have our next meeting, which I think probably will be our final meeting, before we need to, deadline is November 21st. And my sense is we have a couple of subcommittees who need time to work. So my suggestion would be that we have our next meeting, say in early November, which will give people the rest of this month and October to meet. So how about, for example,
Can I just
yes,
ask you a question?
sure.
Do you have any idea when Veto Day will be?
I don't. Does anybody have any further, maybe Representative Kutob, you,
I heard that it was October 23rd.
okay.
That's when the Senate has, yeah, the Senate's been asking for the 23rd.
Because, I think we probably don't want to meet until after.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, well, I'm just thinking in terms of, if the subcommittee, to give the subcommittees maximum, what about, like, I was thinking, what about November 5th? Would that, or, I mean, or we, or we could push it back we could push it back to the. Well, I guess what I was, I guess what I was thinking is, just my interest in giving the subcommittees as much time as possible. I mean, so, so November 5th, okay, or you're thinking of moving up?
Oh, for me, it's not a matter of the subcommittee. I'm out of town on the 29th.
Okay, and Representative Perez is out on the 5th. So let me ask you, what if we pushed it to the 12th of November? That that still gives us like 2 weeks, or maybe not quite 2 weeks, but almost, over a week to get our reports in. November 12th, is that everybody gonna be here then?
Wednesday.
The Wednesday, November 12th.
We already started Thanksgiving celebrations on the 12th.
All right, so it looks like the 12th, seems like the 12th would work for everybody. So why don't we say we'll meet on November 12th at 10 o'clock.
Um, 1, 2,
10,
5, 6.
10 a.m. All right. Anything else that we need to discuss before we recess?
I have it to pass out.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me.
Oh. Oh. Yes, we did. Yes, OTP. Yes, OTP. And it was, yeah. Ah, great. Thank you. All right. All right. So anything else we should discuss? All right. Seeing nothing, I'm going to adjourn the committee meeting. And could I ask the members of my caucus to stick around just for a moment? There's something I need to discuss with you very briefly. Other than that, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.